From Port Alberni to Vancouver to Nelson, there are plenty of places named after European colonizers here in BC. But in northern BC, a trail, road, school, and rural community are named in honor of a Black man and a small but significant contribution to the province's gold rush.
In British Columbia, we have a tendency to think all these names of all these places and things are of white guys. And it's really refreshing to discover that they are not all white guys. When you do research in archives or when you're reading history books, people that aren't white are not very often mentioned. And so it's easy to think that they weren't here, but they were here and in significant numbers in some cases.
John Robert Giscome left his hometown of St. Mary, Jamaica in 1854 to work on California's Panama Railway. Once that was done, he became enamored with the possibility of finding his fortune in gold. But California at the time was ripe with discrimination. So when BC's first governor, James Douglas, invited people to settle on Vancouver Island, Giscome and hundreds of Black people left the States and made their way to Canada.
Where Governor Douglas greeted them happily because they didn't like America very much, and he was afraid that British Columbia was about to be annexed by the United States. He was happy to have people who did not like America in his fledgling, bailiwick.
There's a little bit of speculation that James Douglas himself his mother was Black or half Black, and so that he may have had some kind of personal drive to welcome Black men into essentially the colony he's running.
Now here's where Giscome's journey really begins, as documented in an 1863 article. With his travel partner Henry McDane from the Bahamas and a Clately Tenay guide, they decided to prospect the Peace River country for gold. They had some side adventures where they helped look for travelers who had succumbed to cannibalism in the middle of winter, but that's another story. Ice and high water levels impeded their journey to Fort Macleod when the guide suggested a shortcut which significantly reduced their travel time. Once they reached a Hudson's Bay Company fort on the other side, Giscome said they were greeted by a gun salute in honor of being the first non-Indigenous people to travel via the trail. That trail, which Giscome publicized, became known as Giscome Portage and made travel and access to northern BC much easier during the gold rush.
He makes a big difference when it comes to how people are accessing the north. So suddenly you're cutting off huge amounts of travel time, a lot of expense. And even today, you're still using the Giscome Portage a little bit when you're heading through this area. It's still a major traffic corridor into the north. So it really had long-lasting implications.
After his journey, not much else is known about Giscome's life, but records indicate he actually struck gold as a prospector and lived the rest of his days a rich man in Victoria. Arrthy, Thayaparan, CBC News, Vancouver.